Am I overreacting? Wedding guest called my caterers. One of our wedding guests, the wife of my fiance's groomsmen, someone we went out of our way to accommodate, went behind our backs, tracked down our catering company, and made her own private arrangements for our wedding reception. Without telling us, without asking, without a single word, and when I found out, she acted like she'd done absolutely nothing wrong. If you've ever felt trapped in a relationship that started sweet but turned sour, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. This one's going to hit home. Okay, so let me set the scene properly. My name is Sophie. I'm 36. My fiance, James, and I had been planning our wedding for nearly a year. Venue locked in, caterers sorted, seating chart done and redone about 11 times because someone always decides last minute they can't sit next to their cousin. We were in the final stretch, 2 weeks out, the part of wedding planning where you're either riding a wave of excitement or quietly losing your mind. And honestly, most days it was both at the same time. We had a handful of guests with dietary restrictions and allergies. Completely normal. We expected it. We wanted everyone to feel taken care of on the day, so we reached out early, asked everyone to send through their requirements, and passed every single detail straight to our catering team. Most of it was simple: vegetarian, gluten-free, one nut allergy. The caterers handled it without blinking. And then there was Diane. Diane is married to Tom, one of James's groomsmen and genuinely one of his oldest friends. They've known each other since they were teenagers sitting in the same classroom. James is godfather to their kids. This is as close as it gets without sharing a last name. Diane sent through her allergy list, and I want to be fair, it was genuinely complex. Multiple severe allergies, cross-contamination concerns, very specific requirements. We took it seriously, passed every detail to the caterers immediately, and asked them to go through everything carefully. The catering team came back to us with 5 alternative meal options. 5. Every single one met Diane's requirements completely. No allergens, no cross-contamination risk, fully safe. They'd been thorough and professional about the whole thing. The only catch, and this is just standard practice with most catering packages, was that we could only select one specialty meal to offer across all our dietary guests. One alternative option for the whole group. So we did what made sense. We ran a quick poll, sent it out to everyone with restrictions, listed the 5 options, asked them to vote for their favorite. Totally straightforward. And honestly, it went better than expected. Almost everyone landed on the same option. A lovely vegetarian dish that worked perfectly for most of the group. Almost everyone picked it. Pause except Diane. Diane came back and asked whether there was any way she could have a meat option, chicken specifically. And look, I genuinely understood where she was coming from. Having severe allergies at catered events is stressful. You're never fully in control. I had real sympathy for that. But the reality was simple. We had one specialty slot. The other guests who needed it were vegetarian. If we switched it to a meat dish, they'd have nothing safe to eat. It wasn't possible. I explained this as warmly as I could. Told Diane that the specialty meal needed to stay vegetarian to cover everyone else, but that all 5 original options were completely safe for her. And I'd personally make sure the caterers flagged her plate and handled it with extra care on the day. I thought that was reasonable. I thought we'd handled it well. And then, nothing. Diane went quiet. A few days passed. No response. So we followed up. Gentle check-in. Did she have a chance to look at the options? Any questions at all? Tom replied on her behalf. And what he said was, they had taken care of it. Pause. That was it. Taken care of it. No explanation. No details. Just sorted. I remember reading that and feeling this small, uncomfortable pull in my stomach. Like something was slightly off, but I couldn't name exactly what. I forwarded the message to James. We both shrugged. Odd wording, but maybe she'd just chosen one of the 5 options and Tom was confirming it in his own shorthand way. We moved on. We had 100 other things demanding our attention, and then I had a routine check-in call with the catering team, going over final numbers, timings, table layouts, completely standard. And midway through the call, they mentioned something about the additional plate for one of our guests. I said, sorry, what additional plate? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Turns out Diane had gone to our venue website, found the catering company's contact details, called them directly, and arranged her own completely separate meal, chicken kebabs, to be prepared for her at our wedding reception. The caterers had no idea we didn't know. They thought she was just a proactive guest with serious allergies who'd checked in with them directly. They assumed we were in the loop. It never occurred to them that she'd gone around us entirely. I got off that call and stood in the kitchen completely still for a moment. My hands were shaking slightly, not from upset, more from that strange feeling when your brain is processing something, and the longer it takes, the more your body reacts before your thoughts catch up. I could feel something sitting right between embarrassment and genuine anger starting to build in my chest. Why didn't she tell us? We were right there. She had our number. She had our email. She'd already been in contact with us about the whole thing. She could have called and said, none of these options really work for me. Is there any flexibility? She could have texted and said, I know it's a lot to ask, but is there any chance of a meat option? She could have done literally anything other than go straight to our vendors behind our backs, and we would have tried. I want to be be really clear about that. We would have gone back to the caterers ourselves and pushed for something. We might not have been able to make it happen, but we would have tried. We never got that chance. I called James straight away and told him everything. He went quiet. That particular quiet he does when he's processing something he doesn't want to be true. Because here's the thing about James and Tom. 30 years of friendship. Grew up together. Stood up for each other at milestones. The kind of bond where you finish each other's sentences and show up without being asked. James did not want this to be what it clearly was. I watched him try to find an explanation that made it okay. Maybe she panicked. Maybe she didn't realize it was a problem. Maybe there was a miscommunication somewhere. And I heard all of it. I sat with it. I tried to hold space for every possible innocent explanation. But the more I turned it over, the harder it got to explain away. She knew we were the point of contact. She'd already been emailing us about her allergies. She made a deliberate decision to call the caterers instead of coming back to us, and then said nothing about it. Not a word, not a heads up, not even a casual, just so you know, I sorted something with your catering team. That's silence. That's the part I kept coming back to. There's one more detail worth mentioning here, because the catering company actually owns the venue. That's how Diane found them, through the venue website. And because she'd arranged the extra meal directly with them before we were aware of it, the caterers confirmed they wouldn't charge us for it. So technically, no extra cost to us. Technically. But I think we all know that's not really the point. James and I talked again that evening. Longer this time. More honest. He admitted it bothered him too. He said he wished Tom had just come back to us and said, "Look, the options don't work for Diane. Can we figure something out together?" He said he would have called the caterers himself and pushed for a solution. He would have made it work somehow. And that was the part that actually stung the most. Not the chicken kebabs, not even the phone call. It was knowing that we never got the chance to try because she didn't give it to us. We made a decision that night. We were not going to make this a thing before the wedding. 2 weeks out, with everything still in motion, a conversation like this, a real one, with Tom, potentially with Diane, needed the right time and the right headspace. Not the week we're supposed to be walking down an aisle together. So we noted it, let it sit, and we got through the wedding, which was beautiful, by the way. Genuinely. The caterers were wonderful. The food was perfect. Diane got her chicken kebabs. Everything ran without a hitch, and nobody said a word about any of it on the day. I smiled at her across the room, and she smiled back, and that was that. But after the honeymoon, after the confetti had been swept up and the thank you cards were written, I started talking to people I trusted about what happened, and the responses split pretty clearly down the middle. Half the people I told were immediately frustrated on my behalf. That's so out of order. Why wouldn't she just ask you? The other half were more measured. She probably just had really bad anxiety about her allergies. She didn't mean anything by it. And I want to take that second response seriously, because I do think severe allergy anxiety is real. I think for some people, not having control over what they eat at events isn't about entitlement. It's about genuine fear. I can hold compassion for that. I really can. But here's where I kept landing. Compassion and accountability aren't the same thing. They're not mutually exclusive either. You can have real debilitating anxiety about your allergies and still send one text message saying, "Hey, I reached out to your caterers directly. Just wanted to make sure you knew." Those two things can absolutely coexist. The anxiety doesn't explain the silence. The conversation with Tom happened about 3 weeks after the wedding. James brought it up naturally, not as a confrontation, just clearing the air. Tom seemed genuinely surprised that we hadn't been in the loop. He said Diane had mentioned she'd sorted something and he'd assumed we knew. He looked uncomfortable when James explained we didn't. He apologized, said it was never meant to go around us. Pause. Did Diane apologize? No, she wasn't in that conversation. Did she ever bring it up with me directly? No. And honestly, that's the most telling detail of the whole thing. Not the phone call to the caterers, not the private meal arrangements, just the fact that even now, knowing that we know, there has been no acknowledgement from her. No, I probably should have run that by you. No, sorry if that was out of line. Nothing. Some people move through the world assuming that as long as something works out fine in the end, the way they got there doesn't really matter. And I think Diane is one of those people. So was I overreacting? I've thought about this a lot. And no, I don't think so. I think I was reacting pretty reasonably to someone treating our wedding like something she had the right to customize privately without so much as a conversation. The cost was covered, the food was handled, the day was perfect. But here's what I've taken from this whole experience. When you are planning a big event, you will go out of your way for people. You will accommodate, adjust, problem solve, and tie yourself in knots trying to make everyone feel considered. And most people will appreciate that. Most people will meet your effort with gratitude and communication and basic courtesy. But occasionally, someone will take your consideration as permission to help themselves to more, without asking, without acknowledging, without even a thank you at the end of it. And you are allowed to notice that. You are allowed to feel bothered by it. You don't have to perform gratitude for being treated as an afterthought in your own event. Boundaries aren't about being difficult. They're not about creating drama or holding grudges or making people feel bad. They're just how we show each other basic respect. And when someone skips that step, even for understandable reasons, even without bad intentions. It's okay to name it. Quietly, calmly, in your own time. But name it, because the people who never say anything are the ones who keep getting walked over. And I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to be one of those people anymore. Choose your timing, stay calm, but use your voice. You've earned that much. If this story gave you chills or made you think, smash like, subscribe for more, and drop your own experience in the comments. Thanks for watching the full story. Like and subscribe for more real-life dramas.